In the desperate skies above Stalingrad and the frozen expanses of the Eastern Front, the Soviet Union fought not just with courage, but with machines born from necessity and refined through blood. The fighters that emerged from Soviet design bureaus during the Great Patriotic War were rugged, practical, and built to endure the unforgiving realities of industrial warfare. All right, if this is your first time here, this is Battles of the Ages, your destination for iconic fighter aircraft. Make sure to hit subscribe and join us as we explore history, one battle at a time. The Lavochkin La-5 emerged in 1942 when ingenuity salvaged near failure. Semyon Lavochkin's team combined the LaGG-3 airframe with the powerful Shvetsov ASH-82 radial engine, creating a fighter capable of matching German aircraft at low and medium altitudes where Eastern Front combat occurred. Production began mid-1942, with Moscow and Yaroslavl factories converting incomplete LaGG-3s. Rugged and heavily armed with twin 20mm Schwach cannons, the La-5 became crucial at Stalingrad and Kursk. The definitive La-5FN variant, with fuel-injected engine and lightened structure, completed full turns in 18 seconds, making it deadly in close combat.
Moving on, the Lavochkin La-7 represented the La-5's final evolution, entering service in 1944 as one of the war's best Soviet fighters. Tested between December 1943 and February 1944, it reached 684 kilometers per hour, 64 faster than the La-5 FN. With lightened structure, refined aerodynamics, and superb power-to-weight ratio, the La-7 ended the Messerschmitt Bf-109G's vertical maneuverability advantage. Soviet aces achieved remarkable success during the final campaigns into Germany. Combat records reveal its dominance, only 3 shot down in 1944, with 115 total war losses, half the Yak-3's number. The Lavochkin LaGG-1 was a Soviet fighter aircraft designed in 1938 and first flown on March 30, 1940. Built from laminated wood to conserve strategic materials, it featured a Klimov M105P engine producing 1100 HP and armed with one 20mm Schwach cannon and two 7.62mm machine guns. Initially designated I-22, approximately 100 LaGG-1s were produced for evaluation squadrons, where the aircraft proved underpowered, lacking agility and range. Despite its shortcomings, the LaGG-1 formed the foundation for subsequent developments, eventually leading to formidable Soviet fighters like the LaGG-3, La-5, and La-7. The Lavochkin LaGG-3 was a Soviet single-seat fighter produced in large numbers during World War II. An improved version of the LaGG-1, it featured a Klimov M105PF engine producing 1239 HP and wooden construction to conserve strategic metals. Armed with a 20mm Schwach cannon and machine guns, the LaGG-3 had a maximum speed of 589 km per hour and a range of 1,000 kilometers. Despite suffering significant performance degradation from prototype to production, later series, especially the 66th, achieved improved speed and maneuverability. The LaGG-3 served extensively on the Eastern Front during the early war years. The Lavochkin La-9, a high-performance Soviet fighter, arrived too late for World War II combat, entering production in August 1946. Developed from the La-7, it featured revolutionary all-metal construction, eliminating wood entirely and allowing improved fuel capacity and 4 23mm cannons. A total of 1,559 were built by 1948, serving with Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean units. During the Korean War, La-9s proved their worth, notably destroying fuel tanks containing 5 million gallons at Incheon Harbor on June 17, 1953. The Lavochkin La-11 entered service in 1947 as a long-range escort fighter. Essentially an La-9 with additional fuel tanks and one cannon removed, it represented the final evolution of Lavochkin's wartime piston engine lineage. It served almost exclusively as an interceptor during the Korean War, though it retained poor high-altitude performance, enjoying only a 20 km/h advantage over Boeing B-29 Superfortresses at cruising altitude. Now, we still have a lot to cover, but before we move on, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers soon, and your support is very important to us. The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-1 was an early high-altitude Soviet interceptor introduced in 1940, born from the ambitious I-200 project. Designed by Artem Mikoyan and Mikhail Gurevich to fly high and fast, the MiG-1 could reach 651 km/h at 7,000 meters during prototype testing. Production began before trials were even complete, with approximately 100 aircraft delivered by year's end. However, the fighter proved difficult to handle and required immediate refinement, leading to the improved MiG-3. The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-3 entered service in 1941, excelling at high-altitude performance with its powerful engine. Designed to intercept German bombers above 5,000 meters, it proved ineffective in the low-level dogfights dominating the Eastern Front after Operation Barbarossa began June 22, 1941. Soviet pilots preferred the Yak-1 and LaGG-3, and production ceased by October 1941 for the Il-2 ground attack aircraft. The Petlyakov Pe-3, a heavy fighter variant of the Pe-2 dive bomber, entered service in 1941 for air defense, reconnaissance, and escort missions. During the Battle of Moscow, the 40th High-Speed Bomber Regiment flew 365 sorties, dropping 218 tons of bombs. Though lacking armor for daylight attacks, retrofitted Pe-3s served throughout World War II, primarily in reconnaissance roles. The Polikarpov I-16 Chaika featured a distinctive gulled upper wing design that gave it excellent maneuverability and earned it the nickname Chaika, meaning gull. This Soviet biplane fighter entered service in the mid-1930s and proved to be one of the best fighter biplanes of its time during the Spanish Civil War, where it served as one of the standard fighters of the Spanish Republicans alongside the I-16 monoplane. The nationalists mistakenly called it Curtiss, believing it to be an American design. By 1941, however, early World War II operations made clear the I-15 was obsolete, quickly replaced by modern monoplane designs. The Polikarpov I-16 Ratta was the stubby, groundbreaking Soviet monoplane that entered service in 1934. One of the world's first low-wing fighters with retractable landing gear, the I-16 represented a revolutionary leap in fighter design. It saw intense early combat in the Spanish Civil War, where Republicans called it Ratta or Rat, and later fought in China and during the initial German invasion of the Soviet Union. Though innovative and capable when introduced, by 1941 the I-16 was clearly outclassed by modern German designs like the Bf-109F, its technology overtaken by the relentless pace of aviation development. The Polikarpov I-153 Chaika represented the final refinement of the I-15 biplane series, a paradoxical aircraft born from a misreading of combat experience. Introduced in 1939, it surprisingly featured retractable landing gear, an advanced feature on an otherwise obsolete airframe. The design resulted from a July 1937 meeting chaired by Stalin that concluded the Italian Fiat CR-32 biplane was superior to the I-16 monoplane based on Spanish Civil War results, failing to recognize that pilot tactics rather than aircraft type explained the Italian success. Despite being fundamentally obsolete, the I-153 proved remarkably effective in early combat against German monoplanes, achieving success through superior low-altitude maneuverability. The Yakovlev Yak-1 served as the foundational design for the successful Soviet Yak fighter family, one of the most important aircraft lineages of the Eastern Front. Entering service in 1940, it was fast, light, and easy to mass-produce using simple construction methods suited to Soviet industrial capabilities. The Yak-1 became a true workhorse of the Soviet Air Force throughout the war, proving far more effective than the MiG-3 in the low-altitude combat that dominated the Eastern theater. Later versions were re-engined with the M105PF engine from August 1942, arriving in time for the Battle of Stalingrad, and production of 8,734 aircraft continued until July 1944, when it switched to the Yak-3.
The Yakovlev Yak-3 was a dramatically lightened and refined version entering service in 1944, developed from the Yak-1 series with smaller wings and a more refined engine. Soviet pilots considered it highly maneuverable and deadly at low to medium altitudes where most Eastern Front combat occurred. Its combination of light weight and adequate power made it a favorite among Soviet aces, and it achieved legendary status in the East. The aircraft was considered one of the most dangerous fighters to face in the Eastern theater, with combat records showing it suffered twice the air combat losses of the La-7, yet still proved devastatingly effective. The Yakovlev Yak-7 originated as a two-seat trainer, but was successfully converted into a highly capable single-seat fighter in 1942. Easy to build and maintain under tough field conditions, the Yak-7B served extensively on the Eastern Front. The aircraft was re-engined with the M105PF engine to counter the Bf-109F and G variants, and production facilities gradually switched from the Yak-7 to the more advanced Yak-9 as the war progressed. The Yakovlev Yak-9 became the most numerous Soviet fighter, with over 16,000 produced. Entering service in 1942, it first saw action at Stalingrad. The Yak-9 featured metal construction and versatile configurations, from long-range escort to anti-tank missions with 37mm and 45mm cannons. It served throughout the liberation of Soviet territory and into Germany, including with the French Normandy-Niemen Regiment. These aircraft were not mere machines, they were steel and wood shaped by desperation, flown by men and women fighting for survival. Soviet fighters carried the burden of a nation's existence. These fighters didn't merely fight a war, they determined whether a nation would endure or perish. All right, guys, tell me which country you want me to cover next, and I'll dive right into them. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.